Flight of Passage is literally perfect. I don't think there's an experience elsewhere on this planet that can immerse me into another world as much as this attraction can. Located in one of the most beautiful lands on all of planet Earth, Pandora, Flight of Passage has so much to offer. In today's video, we're going to cover my experiences with this attraction and dive into everything it has to offer. It has been a hot minute since we have talked about anything non-coaster related on this channel, but I do want to take time to talk about one of my favorite Disney rides, and just favorite attractions in general. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the amazing experience that is Avatar Flight of Passage, and how it ranks compared to other dark rides. First off, I visited Disney World during Hell Week, aka Christmas break. That means that the park was absolutely slammed, something that is seemingly impossible to do these days. If you know anything about Flight of Passage, it is by far the most popular attraction across the entire Disney World resort, and the wait times reflect that. So you can guess how long the wait was. Now here's where the fun starts. I was not staying on property at the Disney World Resort, which means I did not have priority access to individual lightning lanes, and because I visited during the busiest time of the year, the lightning lanes sell out before non-resort guests even have a chance to purchase them. Now that leaves one option to choose from, standby. And also with standby, you do not get the early entry that resort guests do. This added on to the fact that I did not get to the park until 10 minutes before rope drop. Oh boy, you do not want to know how long I waited for this ride. Let's play a game. I say a number, you guess higher or lower. You think I waited 1 hour for Flight of Passage? Higher. An hour and a half? Higher. 2 hours? Higher. Yeah, it was really that bad. I ended up waiting 2 hours and 45 minutes for this ride, even with getting to the park 10 minutes before opening. I have to admit, it is better than the 210-minute wait that was posted, but Disney has to overestimate the wait times to not piss off guests. Anyways, the wait time hovered around 3.5 hours from 2 minutes after park opening all the way till closing. That's how popular this ride is. Now, a lot of people ask me, was the wait worth it? And my answer to that is absolutely. I would happily wait 2 hours and 45 minutes any day of the week for the Flight of Passage, especially because it's at a park with not much else to do. This ride and Cosmic Rewind are the two rides that I would consistently endure long waits for. Now, I would like to applaud Disney for how they managed the crowd. Hopefully Flashwing can show you this in editing, but the cast members guided the standby line all the way to the Africa section in the back of the park. The pathway going from Pandora to Africa was completely shut off and turned into a huge out and back point for the standby line. It actually blew my mind how far the line went. A really cool thing that a cast member told me was that wherever the cast member that was standing with the line starts here sign automatically calculated the wait time. I don't know how much I believe this, but it's a really cool concept. Another thing to mention is to cross from this pathway into the actual ride entrance, you had to cross two main pathways in Pandora, and the cast members did a great job at managing these crossroads and keeping the line moving slowly, so huge props to them. Now once you do enter the actual standby line, after essentially walking across the whole park for the extended queue, you are greeted by my favorite queue line in the entire world. This line was even better than Rise of the Resistance or Indiana Jones. I seriously loved it. You slowly climb up into the mountain in the beginning and you get absolutely stunning views of the floating rocks and go by a super cool water feature. When you enter the cave, it is a pretty generic Disney line until you hit the glowing caves. It's been a while since I watched Avatar, so I'm sure there's a proper way to call this, but the glowing fauna was absolutely mind-blowing. Following this, you go into the laboratory where there are all really cool things to entertain you. Of course, you have the iconic picture of the Avatar floating in water, and it does look super realistic. There's also magnetic water and other quirky sets. Now, for some reason, I absolutely love the part of the queue line where they start assigning rows before you get on the ride. I love the hallway that goes up. It just blows my mind, and for some reason, it makes me feel like I am miles deep underground. At the top of the ramp is the pre-show, and I love watching the doors light up green and red when they are ready. It's details like these that really open my eyes to the magic of Disney. Now for my notes during the trip, I thought the pre-shows were pretty uninspired. The acting was really bad, but the technology was really good, but it still made me cringe on the inside. Nevertheless, it's a pre-show and it does what it's supposed to do, which is introduce a coherent story. Something that I found really cool is that there were numbers on the floor where you were told to stand, and the pre-show could detect if you were standing on that number or not. And the pre-show did not start until everyone got on their number. There's probably some mechanism to do it when there's a person missing, if this ride even gets an empty seat ever, but I thought it was cool that you interacted with the pre-show. Following this pre-show, guess what? You have another pre-show. This one is less about the story and more about how to get on the ride, but it still is somewhat decent. Another detail that I found about when googling this ride is that there are multiple variations of the pre-shows depending on how close the next cycle of riders are to being done with their show. That's mind-blowing and absolutely some of Disney's finest work. Enough with the pre-shows. After this, you finally get to the moment you are waiting for. You enter the rooms with the ride vehicles. The bike-looking seats are to your left or right, all in a single line. You have the option to store belongings in cubbies in the back of the room. I thought the whole bike seat was very comfortable, but then again, I am a small teenage boy. I did not hear as many complaints on these restraints as Tron had, so I'm guessing that it's not just a me thing. here's where you put on your glasses and actually start the ride. I just probably spent like 4-ish minutes talking about the queue line, but who cares? I spent 2.5 hours in it, and for some reason it is the most memorable part of my entire Florida trip. So once you are on the ride, the first thing that happens is they flash a bunch of bright lights into your face. This actually distracts you from the panels in front of you dropping, and all of a sudden you are transported into another world. The flashing lights really help you buy into the experience, and it's not like painful. I'm not going to go crazy in depth about the ride experience because it's really hard to explain a simulator ride, and I barely know anything about Avatar, so here's the best summary. The storyline already explains that you're connecting with an Ikron and taking part of their coming of age celebration, and that's really just the ride. You go through amazing scenes from across all of the world of Avatar, and it's just visually stunning. It's closer to something like Soarin', but there's a lot more action. The ending finale, you see all the creatures, and it's just so cool. One thing that I was excited to see was all the water creatures. This ride was built in 2017, way before The Way of the Water came out, and it was cool to see the new Avatar creatures after I just recently saw the movie. I'm also sure that they have the creatures for the future Avatar movies in there as well because the world of Avatar was well planned out. The whole experience is just so good. The screen movements are perfectly aligned with the turns and everything just flows so well. The seats have these pedals that rub up against your thighs and it all matches with the screen movements. When you take a turn, the pedals push into you and you can constantly feel them fluctuating, giving off a real convincing effect that you are riding on a breathing animal and controlling it. The scenes are absolutely beautiful and filled with super vibrant colors. It's visually stunning. The music is there and it helps with the immersiveness. I don't think that we will see a better simulator ride cross this planet in the next 20 years. Other quirks with the seat is that it vibrates and can get a little water on you, you can pump out scents. It's seriously some of the craziest I have ever seen in any theme park. The only possible complaint that I could think of is that the screen is a tad bit blurry. I have heard that when it opened up it was a lot better than it is now, but you can't really blame Disney for this. Even with the small blur, it is by far one of the easiest screens to look at and it's super clear compared to most other simulator rides. If you look at something like The Simpsons, I dislike that ride solely because of how blurry and how sick it makes me feel. Avatar Flight of Passage is nothing like this. It's crisp and it just looks so good. There are glasses which I never really enjoy, but you gotta make it 3D somehow. The screen is supposedly 10K at 60 FPS, and I do believe that statement because of how well it rubs off. This is one of the most technologically advanced rides that Imagineering has put together, and I absolutely love them for that. Another cool thing is that it really doesn't matter where you sit in the theater, you get good views from pretty much anywhere. It's actually hard to see any other group unless you turn your head and physically look for them. It's not like Soarin' where there's 20 pairs of feet blocking your view. There are no obstructions on Flight of Passage, and I really appreciate Disney for that. It's actually mind-blowing how much logistics go on in the background. There are actually 4 theaters that run at once, and if you told me that, I would not believe you. I was convinced that there was only one until I looked it up. I honestly have no idea how that one hallway leads to 4 theaters, but something with the long pre-shows has Disney working their magic. So in summary, Flight of Passage is a perfect theme park experience and delivers an immersive experience that is unparalleled by any other attraction on the planet. This thing is seriously one of my favorite Disney rides. In fact, I think it's number 2, only behind Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. The movements of the ride vehicles create an unmatchable and convincing experience. The added effects and very clear visuals really communicate the idea that you are riding a Ikron. I absolutely love this ride and I really can't stop thinking about the next time I will ride it. I beg for this ride to come to California Adventure, but I don't think it will. Anyways, it's time for the score reveal. If you guys couldn't guess already, I'm giving Flight of Passage a 10 out of 10. It's literally the perfect simulator ride and it's unmatched by anything else on this planet. And yes, it's absolutely worth the 3-hour wait. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, link in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.